Paula, we're going to bring you in. You have 20 minutes, and I'll give you a 1 minute heads up before you're.
Well, you know what? I'm glad I made you nervous, because if you're going to say that any question that anybody has is no topic is off limits, then serves you right. So I'm just saying. So, hey everybody, I'm Paula. I'm a compulsive overeater and food addict. I came into recovery in August of 2010. My top recorded weight was 234 pounds. And in case you think that I'm lying, there she is in all of her glory. I have a disease of the mind and an allergy of the body, and I've learned that an allergy is defined as an abnormal reaction, and I certainly have an abnormal reaction when I put food in my body. And that ensures that I cannot eat normally. I just can't. While I love the big book, Living Sober, 12 and 12, Little Red Book, and have recently discovered a podcast, which I highly recommend, called Sobercasts, I'd like to read one of my favorite readings from the 24-hour-a-day book, or the Little Black Book. And it's actually the part of the reading from January the 1st. And it goes, when I came into AA, was I a desperate person? Did I have a soul sickness? Was I so sick of myself and my way of living that I couldn't stand looking at myself in a mirror? Was I ready for AA? Was I ready to try anything that would help me to get sober and to get over my soul sickness? Should I ever forget the condition I was in? I regularly attend this meeting, and I also love a face-to-face meeting that I attend on Saturday evenings, which is a step meeting. Each week we do a step and we all talk about it. I'd now like to share with you what my disease was like, what happened, and what it's like now. I have always been a person of fear, doubt, and insecurity. And as a child, I knew about and feared things that a small child should not be concerned with. From a young age, I was all aware of death and social unrest. And maybe it was a product of the fact that I was a child of the 60s and so much tumult was going on in the 60s. I was hyper aware of everything that was going on around me. As an example of that, and I'm really telling on myself, I was so afraid that somebody was going to come in and harm me. And again, you have to remember, back in the 60s, central air conditioning was not something that most families had. And no matter what the temperature was, it was like I had to have some type of blanket on me and a pillow in front of me, because I was so afraid that somebody was going to come in and hurt me while I was sleeping, that these things were going to guard against injury. So, and that is from really, really young age, 4, 5. And so it was always that way for me. I was teased as a kid in school. And I just kept thinking to myself, if you just really knew me, you would like me, you would like me. I was the last child of 3 children. And again, because of my insecurity, I always felt like I needed to do something special to get love and recognition. And while other parents were telling their kids, you better eat that, there are starving people somewhere in the world. And of course, when I was a kid, it was China. If my mom said, please be my good little angel and finish this, I was happy to oblige that, because that was my recognition. Being the good little angel was my way to fit in. And so I remember always having a soft spot for sweets. I kind of remember my first sweet thing that I would go for, believe it or not. I remember being like a really little kid and climbing up in the bathroom, one top of the sink, to get to the medicine cabinet to eat St. Joseph's children aspirin because they were orange and they were sweet, and that could have been really dangerous. But I didn't know. All I knew is they were sweet. When we would go to restaurants, my parents would say, "You can order whatever you like, but you better eat whatever you order." And we would go to restaurants, and I would say to the waitress, "Oh, I'll take the soup, and I'll have chef salad, and then there was my entree." And I remember the waitress looking at my parents, and they would say to her, "Yeah," she would look at them like, "Really? You're kidding me?" And they'd say, "No, no, really." And and I'd eat it all. I'd eat it all. And I was proud of that because, again, they were like, "Yeah, she'll eat it." And I'd be like, "Yay, they're recognizing me." And I never knew that there was a problem with the way I ate until one morning. Again, I remember specifically coming downstairs in the morning, and I knew that my parents were arguing about me, and specifically how I was eating. And that was the first clue that I had that something was wrong with the way I ate. And that caused me to go into covert eating. So, like when I would go to family functions, I'd have to make sure that nobody was looking to, get to the food table. And when I went to school, we used to sell these candy bars, and I remember like coming home and nobody would be home, and I'd eat one or two and then readjust the packaging so that way it wouldn't look like there were any missing. My mother also saved quarters, and I was big in always finding the quarter jar and going to the corner store and to be able to get whatever sweet item. And of course, the quarters were unlimited, so I could get whatever I basically wanted. So after that being the way it was, then came the diets, and there was Diet Workshop and Weight Watchers and LA Weight Loss, and they were all basically the same. It was always that desire to do well, and that initial like excitement of doing it. But then what? Life just crept back into being life, and and just juggling that with food. So like with Diet Workshop, for example, that was Monday evenings, and so afterwards we would go and pick up dinner because it finished late. So we would go to a sub stop, pizza shop, for anybody who doesn't know what that is. And that was okay because I had just weighed in. So then that allowed me to be good Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And then, then as it crept up and kept going on, well, if I was bad Monday and Tuesday, well, then I could still be good Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And then the next week or whenever, if I was bad Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, well, then if I still was good Thursday, Friday, Saturday, it was all that playing with food. And, it was sort of like, well, as long as I, lost a quarter of a pound, well, then that was great. My cheating, it was okay, and it just was the same insanity over and over and over again. My last attempt at a weight loss thing before I came into recovery, and I don't even remember what the name of the product was, but it was big there for a while, and it was sort of like, well, you eat normally, and as long as you don't eat fatty things, that was the great thing. It was going to take all the fat and get rid of it. But the packaging said, and I hope this isn't too disgusting, but it's just part of my story. Part of it was that they forewarned you that if you ate things that had too much fat in it, it was going to cause, let's just say, a lower intestinal tract issue. And it got to the point where I was looking forward to that lower intestinal tract issue because it was like, it was almost sort of like, what a stool softener would do or whatever, that, well, that's going to help me lose weight. And, that's just where the insanity of all of my disease took me. And, and I often remembered praying, God, give me some disease that will make me so sick that I'll lose weight. And then when I get to a certain weight, cure me. So that way I'll be thin. And, it's just the insanity of the thinking that went along with that. And this is where the reading that I just read really applies. I was desperate. I was soul sick. I couldn't stand to look at myself in the mirror. I had never heard or knew that someone could be addicted to food the way an alcoholic was addicted to alcohol. And people talked about comfort food. And I certainly use that term as a loving way to describe the things that I love to eat. So being at the point of desperation, I said to a member of AA how broken I was. And they knew of someone who was in a 12-step recovery program for food issues. And I went to my first meeting in October of 2009. And, quite frankly, I didn't know a lot about 12-step recovery. So I thought, oh, well, here we go, another diet. And I went to the meeting. It was really kind of a strict program. And I kind of figured I'd have to weigh things and that kind of thing. But then he were telling me, there are certain things that you were going to have to abstain from. And I was like, okay. And, quite frankly, I did it on my own for months. I didn't get a sponsor right away. And it was one of those things that you couldn't get the food program until you got a sponsor. And so it was like I was doing whatever I could do covertly to get the food program going online, which couldn't find. But, given what I was hearing, I was kind of getting what people were eating. And again, it's that whole mentality of, I thought I was going to be a failure. I knew I was going to be a failure. There's going to be one other one of those things. And if I got a sponsor, then I would have to be accountable to somebody. And if I was going to fail, I didn't want to have to be accountable to anybody. And that way I could just, slip away and not have to worry about saying to somebody, oh, well, I guess I'm, a failure again. And so I worked it like a diet. I robbed myself of getting guidance. About learning about the spiritual aspect of the program and learning about the way I ate, and why I ate the way I ate, and really and truly starting the cure of my soul sickness. Like I said, it was a strict program. And it was one of those things because, again, I was so sick in my mind with my disease. I fed on people who were also having issues with food recovery. And it was like, it was like I was going to start a coup. I was going to have all the food sick people rise up and, we're not going to, I don't know what I was thinking. I was sick. I was sick in my head. And, it was like I was trying to run Paula's Anonymous, not knowing what I was doing. And I will tell you that I did eventually make an amends to that group. Not that anybody knew that that's what I was doing, but I thought that if I could have other people be miserable with me, we could all be miserable together. And I don't know. But here's what happened. I got a sponsor. It took me 5 months of being in recovery to make that decision that, I needed to work this. I started working the steps. I started going to big book studies. I started attending step studies. And that meant that I was starting to work a program and putting it into action. I started to have that spiritual experience, and that was of the educational variety. And I learned that I am powerless. I really was a compulsive and am a compulsive overeater and a food addict. I constantly lied to myself. Um, and basically that lie was, oh, this time it's going to be different, you know? I don't know if anybody else feels that way, but it's always like, well, this time when I eat this, I'm not going to eat the whole thing of whatever. I'm going to be able to, eat like a normal person. And I'm going to be the one that leaves that last bite on a plate. And honestly, quite frankly, to this day, that really has been something that I've had to work on. It's one bite. Oh my God. And there's a story that I've heard among alcoholics, like you're leaving half of a drink, and it's sort of that way, like, okay, there's one bite. You mean to tell me you can't I don't know. I that's one of those things I've really had to work on. I was constantly thinking of the next meal. How do I get to that next bite? And especially if I knew that I had been eating more than I should, it was like, how could I get that bite without anybody seeing that I was getting that next bite? What would I be missing out on if I didn't get that bite? And most importantly, no matter how sick I made myself with what I ate by overstuffing myself, I would do it over and over and over again. And, a lot of times when I would do that, and I would say to myself, if we had lunch at work or whatever, and I'd overstuff myself, I'd say to myself, oh, well, tonight I'm not going to eat dinner. And then by the time I was on my way home, well, I won't eat so much dinner. And then it was face full of food, you know? I learned that the way I ate was a symptom of that hole that I had in my soul. That was the way I was covering up the larger problem. And I learned that it wasn't my mother's fault because, when I first came into recovery, my sponsor at the time said to me, how do you know when did you realize that you were addicted to food? And I said, oh, it's like immediately. Oh, well, it was around the time when I was 6 or 7, and my mother would say to me, oh, be my good little angel, blah, 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 blah. And, and from that day on, anytime that I left something on my plate, I heard my mother say in my head, no matter how old I was, be my good little angel. And you know what? I learned that it wasn't my mother's fault. That's what a lot of recovery taught me. It wasn't my mother's fault for me trying to be her good little angel, because guess what? She would love me anyway. That was a 6-year-old's perception of what that meant. She would have loved me anyway. And that was, that's when I learned I have always been a creature of fear, doubt, and insecurity. It was named. That was a great learning experience because then I could say, what is this that I'm experiencing? Oh, that's fear. Oh, that's doubt. That's my insecurity. How do I work on that? I began to notice that even when I was stressed, when I got into recovery,
1 minute.
I didn't have to turn to food. I didn't have to worry about what lunch was, just after I finished eating breakfast. I began to learn about my character defects and began working on them, learning how to let go of resentments and fear. I put my trust in a higher power, not just with my food, but in all of my affairs. There's a caveat to this miracle. I allowed the disease to be insidious again. A pandemic, things that were going on in my life, my husband's illness. And so I found this program. I needed to be back in recovery. I knew that I was at my happiest when I was working a program. And when you work it, the crazy thoughts that had started to work their way back in, they started going away again when I was able to work a program. And I immediately got a sponsor when I got here. Attend this meeting regularly. When I was in program before, the saying was, I came for the vanity and stayed for the sanity. And I've learned I need to be here for the sanity, and the vanity will come later. And I'm still learning that, this is a program of education without graduation. And, I learned that not only is this the disease of more for me, it's a disease that I feel like I've missed out. I'm going to miss out if I don't get it. And that is something I just learned. And I discussed it with my sponsor immediately. And so today I can go, is that the disease again of me going, am I going to miss out on something if I don't eat what everybody else is eating? Can I sit there and just enjoy the company I'm having, eating my nutritious meal? Yeah, I can. And the long and short of it is, I am not the person I used to be, and I am a work in progress. And it's not about being perfect, but doing the best I can one day at a time. I'm still learning, and I still am using the tools that I've been taught and still relying on that power greater than myself. And I'd like to thank you all so much for listening to my story. I'm so very grateful to have this program in my life and for all of you and for this journey. So thank you for letting me share.
Paula, thanks so much. That was a great share. Great share. Now, if she'll hang around,